All right, welcome back to ABA Exam Review in our BCBA exam practice question series, where we're going through our next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in our Sunday shout out. Other than that, let's work hard, study hard, get to our questions. Question 1. A reward system is put in place in Mrs. Johnson's science classroom. Mrs. Johnson starts off by handing out one sticker for every nice or polite behavior she observes from her students. She then transitions to a variable ratio force schedule for nice and polite behaviors. How is Miss Johnson teaching for generalization? We have to focus on what the question is asking. The question is asking about Miss Johnson teaching for generalization. Don't get bogged down in nice and polite behaviors and definitions and things like that. We're not worried about that. All we're worried about is what is the question asking. You have to focus on that. So we know Miss Johnson is handing out one sticker for every nice or polite behavior she observes, meaning a continuous reinforcement schedule. She then transitions to a VR4 schedule, so she fades, right, or thins the schedule for nice and polite behaviors. She's now done what? Well, she's made it to where the students can't predict when they're getting reinforcement. Previously, they knew every single time they were nice or polite, they got a sticker. Now, it could be 3 times, it could be 6 times. They're not sure. So what is that called? A, she's using indiscriminable contingencies. Yes, if the learner doesn't know when the contingency is coming, that is an indiscriminable contingency. That's how a lot of real life functions. We aren't really sure when reinforcement is coming, but at one point we got reinforced, and that's why our behavior continues. So she's using these indiscriminable contingencies to try to get her class to be nice and polite without knowing when those reinforcers are actually going to occur. B, training loosely would be changing parts of the environment that are inconsequential or that don't have a big impact on the behavior. She's not changing parts of the environment. C, she's programming for common stimuli, where she would use different stimuli that is relevant to nice and polite behaviors. But again, we're not talking about the stimuli here, right? We have to keep focused on what she's done, which is change the reinforcement schedule. So she hasn't changed any of the stimuli, right? And then D, she's using natural contingencies. Well, she's not, because she has her own sticker plan in place, right? Its own token economy, and giving stickers for nice and polite behavior is not natural at all. We don't receive stickers out in the real world for being nice and polite, where you just are nice and polite. So the way Miss Johnson is teaching for generalization is through indiscriminable contingencies. The students don't know when that contingency is going to occur. A boy is helping his father with a project in his father's woodshop. The father tells the boy to hammer some nails into the side of the plank of wood. The boy starts to hammer, but the father sees it is in the wrong spot. He tells the boy to keep hammering and then hammer 5 more nails in the same spot. The father is most likely using what? All right, whose behavior are we looking at? We're looking at the father, and we know the father tells the boy to hammer nails. The boy hammers. The father sees he's hammering in the wrong spot, but he tells the boy to keep hammering anyway, and then to hammer 5 more nails in the same spot. Now, why would he see the boy hammering in the wrong spot, but then continue to say, hammer 5 more nails in that same spot? What procedure is he using? A response cost. Response cost is a negative punishment procedure where something is removed in response to a behavior. The father has not removed any token or any reinforcer from the boy, so it can't be response cost. B, positive practice overcorrection. Positive practice is where we are forced to engage in the correct behavior over and over again, but the boy is engaging in the incorrect behavior over and over again. So the father is really using C, negative practice overcorrection. And then D, restitutional overcorrection. If he were to use restitutional overcorrection, this would be like saying to the boy, you need to fix this piece of wood, and then you need to clean the whole wood shop, or restoring the environment to a better condition than before. What the father is doing is he's making the boy repeat the problem behavior over and over again. So the father is likely using negative practice overcorrection. A client was referred to a specialist for severe aggression. The specialist observes the client in home and then implements a treatment package targeting aggression for decrease. After 4 weeks, the behavior is nearly gone at home. The following day, the client is suspended from school for punching a classmate. What dimension of ABA did the specialist not adhere to? Such a common issue for practitioners where we are so focused on our environment, we forget that the most important thing is that it goes to other environments. Because if not, these type of situations occur. So what has the specialist failed to do? A, effective. Was he effective? Well, the specialist was effective at reducing the behavior in home. He was able to change the behavior with his treatment package. So he wasn't necessarily ineffective. The problem was B, there was no generality. And so once they were able to decrease aggression at home, then they should have been targeting all along, decreasing it at school as well. If anything, we're seeing behavior contrast, which would be even worse. So even though he was effective at home, there was no generalization, making this a huge issue. What about C, applied? Is it socially valid that the boy is not aggressive? Well, of course, because he's now suspended, right? The client is now suspended. This is a very meaningful behavior to target. And then D, behavioral. Well, we are targeting aggression. The specialist worked for 4 weeks. They observed it. I'm sure they defined it. And we're not told that explicitly, but there's nothing to say he failed, right, to target it behaviorally. So for sure, what we know is that he failed to generalize. And that's what we have to go with on these dimension questions, okay? You have to work with the information given, and you have to ask yourself, what do I know for sure? And what we know for sure is that there's no generality here. Aggression is gone at home. At school, they're still punching classmates. There is no generality. The dimension of ABA that the specialist did not adhere to was B, generality. If you're designing a token economy, you should try and avoid using the tokens as what? What are the tokens meant for? The tokens are meant to reinforce behaviors, right? They're meant to be exchanged for backup reinforcers. If you need to take those away, we can use response cost procedures. But what should we avoid using the tokens for? A, generalized conditioned reinforcers. Well, the goal would be that tokens start to function as generalized conditioned reinforcers, right? We can use them in a lot of different ways. That would be a great thing to have. B, incentives to complete tasks. Well, sure, once they're paired with backup reinforcers, those tokens become incentives to complete whatever task is at hand. A medium of exchange, C. Well, in a real token economy, you're exchanging tokens for that backup reinforcer. That is how the token economy should function. So D, punishers for maladaptive behavior. You're really not going to use the tokens in the token economy as punishers. Those should be your GCRs. Those should be your reinforcers. If you want to implement a punishment procedure along with it, then go ahead and do that. Maybe some sort of fine or response cost system, right? But you shouldn't be using the tokens as a form of punishment because we need those to function as reinforcers. So if you're designing a token economy, you should try and avoid using the tokens as punishers for maladaptive behavior. Kevin is sitting on a park bench in the middle of the day watching as birds land on the ground and then fly away. Kevin starts to time how long each bird stays on the ground before flying away again, and then records his measurement. Kevin is doing what type of analysis? What type of analysis is going on? And here's our little trick to remember these, okay? We have descriptive, we have correlational, we have experimental. Think about our goals of science: description, prediction, and control. With description, we're simply observing what we see, right? With prediction, now we're trying to see, are two things related? Are they correlated? And then when we have control, we have a functional relation, right? We are now manipulating things. All Kevin is doing is sitting on this bench, watching these birds land and then fly away again. He's looking at a single variable, a single event, and recording it. Kevin is doing an A, a descriptive analysis. B, a correlational analysis, okay, which kind of goes with prediction, is now we have, let's say, two variables, and we start observing and watching what happens in the presence of those two things, okay? Is there a correlation there? We're not manipulating anything in A or B. In A, we're just observing a single thing. In B, we're observing two things to see if there might be a relation. And then in D, C and D are flipped for some reason. In D, right, or C, really, experimental analysis, that's when we're actually manipulating, right, antecedents and consequences and trying to determine, can we establish a functional relation between things? So again, think our goals, right? Description, prediction, control. Description, we'll do a descriptive analysis. Prediction, we'll do a correlational analysis. And then control, we'll do our experimental analysis. So Kevin is doing an A, a descriptive analysis. Which of the following answer choices is not a requirement for a client to be able to give informed consent? There are three things clients must do or have to give informed consent. And remember, informed consent is required in research. So which of the following is not one of those requirements? A, the client must be adequately informed on all phases of the treatment or intervention. Yes. No matter what you think about the client and their capacity, if they're going to give informed consent, you have to explain to them what you are doing. So if you have a naive learner who knows nothing about ABA, you still must explain your conditions, your phases, your treatments. They have to understand and be informed of all the things you're planning to do. B, the client must be able to voluntarily participate in the treatment or intervention. Voluntary is very important. You can't coerce them. You can't force them. They must volunteer. Okay. They must have the choice to participate or not. C, the client must be able to verbally communicate to the research team that they consent prior to treatment or intervention. Now, is that a requirement? Must they be able to tell you that they consent? Well, of course not, right? They have no communication, but they are of capacity and they are absolutely able to still give consent. D, the client must demonstrate that they are able to make the decision to consent to treatment or intervention. Yes, you have to be able to observe them before and make the decision that, yes, they are capable, right? They have the capacity to give and informed consent. What they don't have to do is verbally tell you. There are other ways to communicate, as we know. So which of the following is not a requirement for a client to give informed consent? Well, it's going to be C. The client must be able to verbally communicate to the research team that they consent prior to treatment or intervention. A behavior analyst is observing a behavior technician implement a reinforcement procedure. Parents are also in attendance as part of a parent training session. The behavior analyst notices that the behavior technician reinforces the wrong behavior, so the analyst says, that is the wrong way to do it. I can't believe that mistake was made. Here, let me show you how it is done. Has the analyst done anything wrong? No. Our technicians are arguably the most valuable pieces of our team, okay? We must treat them with respect, with dignity. We rely on them, right? But we also have to give feedback. We also have to train. So it's a balancing act. Now, in this case, you've got parents there, you've got your technician there, and the behavior analyst says, well, that's wrong. I can't believe you made that mistake. Let me show you how it's done. Have they done anything wrong? A, no, feedback should be provided immediately when training or supervising. While that is true, is this necessarily the best way to provide feedback? Well, of course not. It's not professional. It's not dignifying. Okay. We don't need to humiliate that client or that technician in front of the parents. That technician-parent relationship is super important. We don't want to damage it. B, yes, parent training sessions should not overlap with supervision sessions. It seems like a great time, right? Get everybody together, get everybody on the same page. Nothing wrong with that. C, no, the behavior analyst decided to model the proper way to implement the procedure. That is fine. The way they said it and went about it is not. So D, yes, the behavior analyst should provide feedback in a more professional manner. That is what we're looking for. That behavior analyst needs to provide feedback in a professional way, in a respectful way, in a way that indicates collaboration. We are a collaborative field. We must collaborate, technicians, parents, and everybody else. You have to give feedback. You have to model. But you've got to do it respectfully. So has the analyst done anything wrong? D, yes, the behavior analyst should provide feedback in a more professional manner. The longer the intervals, the more likely that what will occur if you are using whole interval recording. And think about this. We're using whole interval recording, so meaning the behavior has to occur the entire interval to count. And the question is asking about the longer the intervals. What is likely to occur? So let's map it out, right? If we have 10-second intervals and we're using whole interval recording, that behavior has to happen for 10 seconds, right? If my interval is 2 minutes long, that behavior must occur for 2 minutes straight for me to be able to record it. What's likely to happen in that case? A, you're going to overestimate the behavior. Well, is it likely you'll overestimate the behavior? Probably not, because now that behavior has to happen for 2 minutes straight as opposed to 10 seconds. B, produce more accurate results. Again, are they going to be more accurate? If that behavior happens for 1 minute and 59 seconds, we're going to mark a no response. It's not very accurate. C, underestimate the behavior. Yes, you're going to probably underestimate that behavior. That behavior has to occur for 2 straight minutes. The longer that interval gets, right? 3 minutes, 4 minutes. The longer it gets, the more likely you are to underestimate how often that behavior is occurring, which is why it's usually a good idea to use shorter intervals. So the longer the intervals, the more likely that you will underestimate the behavior if you are using whole interval recording. Excellent. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com. Let us know when you pass so we can include you in our Sunday shout out. Like, subscribe, spread the word. See you soon.